learn to love each other, then the truth will set you free. Oh, maybe pain and sorrow, there's no tomorrow. Will take a hold of me, baby, baby, baby. All alone, baby, won't you come along and help me? I ain't the seventh son, but I know where I'm from. Let's head on, dead on, dead on down the highway. And maybe when we come back, by then you will have seen things my way. I don't want no skinny woman.
All right. How about we get this thing going? Lots
Welcome,
to talk about.
welcome in, well, folks. Welcome in. Sorry, I'm just cleaning my glasses. One of the unfortunate things about wearing them is when they get smudged, you can't see shit.
I can't see shit anyway, so.
I,
Sorry.
I would
Roll
say
quick.
imagine wearing glasses, but frankly, I do need to get my eyes checked so I can get a prescription. My eyesight isn't terrible, but I could use it.
Starting to go. It's the first sign. It's the first sign, man.
It's not fair, honestly. I don't know if I ever said it on stream, but I have like I cannot smell. Like, or rather, it's more I could say I have an extremely weak sense of smell. Like, you put something right up to my nose and it has a really strong smell, maybe I'll catch a whiff of it. What I mean to say is that I'm 1 sense down as it is. Actually, smell affects your taste, so I'm like 1.5 senses down. So like, let me keep my eyesight, man. You know, let me keep this.
Nah. You ain't keeping shit.
How long until my hearing starts going too? And then all of a sudden, like by the time I'm like, I don't know, 50, I'm just a potato. I can't tell what's going on. Right.
don't knock the hearing thing, because that can be kind of a blessing.
It's true. It's really true. Oh man. But yeah, guys, welcome in for episode 51 of the Update Log. I am your host, as always, Rob, and with me are Greg and Matt, my two co-hosts. Yeah, as Greg said, we got a lot to get into today. Quite a few things have happened in the last weekish or so. Most notably, Helldivers 2 and Sony. I was hoping one of you guys would fill the silence for a second, but yeah.
Fill the
You
silence.
gotta this is like the first time you've done that to us. You know, you gotta. It's something we gotta practice. You can't just drop that on us out of nowhere.
Well,
But,
Helldivers 2, which is a game by Arrowhead Studios and Sony Entertainment. So Matt, why don't you you take that one away?
Yeah, just Infinity Core. Yeah, that was a move. Listen, we'll get it right one of these days. You know this was the test run. The test failed, but
yep.
we gotta practice. But yeah. So Helldivers 2, that community has had a wild couple of days. A wild week, really.
That's an understatement.
So the way it started is that Sony came out with a mandate. Let's do a bait and switch over the whole world. Kind of, but also kind of not. So what Sony did, and this was a direction from, this was something that Sony did, not the folks at Arrowhead Studios. So just so we know, like, where the fault for certain actions lie. But Sony wanted to essentially enforce the linking of your Steam account to your PlayStation Network account in order to play the game on Steam. Now, the first thing I will say is that that's not an unusual thing. Like, we've seen plenty of games that when you boot them up for the first time, they want you to link an account. The issue, there's several issues with how this occurred for Helldivers 2. But the first one is that it wasn't like that way from the get-go. At first, when the game launched, it was merely optional. You could do it, but you could also choose to not do it. And so that's one of the things that got people upset, because it's like, suddenly now they have to jump through this extra hoop. And the other part, and this is probably the bigger thing that made a lot of people upset, is that PlayStation Network is not a service that is available all across the world.
It's actually available in a lot less countries than I thought it would be when I after research.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, it's mostly available across like any like first world country, but if you go to like many other like second, third world countries, you may not find it there. So essentially, everyone who had Helldivers on Steam in those countries that PSN wasn't available in suddenly wouldn't be able to play the game anymore. That was what was being said, and obviously that got a lot of people riled up. Here's the thing, though: PSN is not available in a large part of the world. Yeah, large part of the players that paid for the game now no longer can play the game. Yes, that's exactly the thing that made a lot of people mad. And you know, using a VPN or, you know, lying about what country you live in for your PlayStation Network account is, you know, against the PlayStation terms of service, you know, however much you may or may not care about sticking true to those things.
Yeah, and then it risks your account getting permanently banned, so then you're fucked that way too.
Yeah, so there was no real solution to it. And yeah, that got a lot of people very angry. Reasonably so. But honestly, and the Helldivers 2 community let Sony know it. And
oh yeah.
I think this is probably one of the most impressive things I've seen out of a gaming community. And yeah, that got a lot of people honestly angry.
No, the D&D community did the same thing with the OGL situation.
Okay, you're right about that. So what the folks of the Helldivers 2 community did is that they mass review bombed the game on Steam. And I mean mass, like hundreds of thousands of negative reviews within only a couple of days since the announcement. I'm going to give credit to the folks at Arrowhead here, because they were trying their best to work with their community, let them know what was going on, as well as talking with Sony to try to like walk this back. Because obviously they don't want their own game review bombed. They want to resolve this thing, and as Arrowhead has always, you know, been thus far, they've been very pro-community. So they were on the side of the players for this thing. From Affinity. I think the biggest thing that really screwed PSN is that they gave a BS reason for security for linking the accounts. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, the security was complete bullshit, because Sony actually has a terrible reputation.
They've gotten hacked at least, I think in the last couple of years, it's been more than 3 times.
Oh yeah, no,
or around there. Like, they've got hacked several fucking times in the last couple of years alone.
Yeah, no, your data is not that secure with them. That is not security. Honestly,
yeah, so that's a bullshit fucking excuse. And here's the thing, like, so the CEO of Arrowhead Studios, Johan Halstead, I think, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name properly. He, again, as Matt said, he himself was communicating with the Helldivers 2 community via Twitter. I'm never going to call it X, so Elon, if you hear this.
He also talked about it on the Discord.
He did.
Because he knew the Sony didn't pay attention to the Discord, so he could speak a little more freely there.
Yeah, and what it boils down to, you know, he admitted some fault which I don't think he was really at fault at all. But he owned up to certain parts that he thinks were he was kind of culpable for, namely, so in one of the tweets he kind of said, I can't really be sure of this. I meaning he was pretty sure that he did, but he couldn't be 100% certain that he'd let the community know that at the time of launch, Helldivers 2 wasn't going, like, you didn't have to link and or have a PlayStation Network account to play the game, but there were reasons for that, and he elaborated in the reasons for that via the kind of Twitter response and kind of back and forth that he was having with the community. Basically, it boiled down to, at launch, they were worried that adding the additional data from linking a PlayStation 2, PlayStation Network account to the Helldivers game and all that stuff, and that interaction would kind of nuke the servers. Couple things there. Number one, servers got nuked anyway just because they weren't ready for the influx of people. So that's number one. Number two, PlayStation is actually the one who is in charge of the servers for Helldivers 2. So there's that. But basically, circling back to my point, he was saying, "Hey, we're gonna nix this." Actually, a couple hours before launch, decided we're gonna nix that account linking thing. That way, we don't nuke the servers and everybody can get in and play no problem. Which was a good call considering tons of people bought the fucking game especially from countries outside of the PlayStation Network kind of locales. So, again, and then we saw the results of that. The game did fantastic, still doing fantastic until recently. But there is one other thing that I want to point out. Linking accounts like that is par for the course nowadays, especially if you're going through a publisher like, say, Sony or Xbox or any of the other ones. Any of the major ones, they're going to want you to link that account because it opens your player base up to their ecosystem and stuff related to them, which is what they want. Which, again, that's fair because typically that comes standard with those kind of contracts. And again, each contract is going to be a little different, but I'd bet money that that's kind of a standard practice in this day and age.
Yeah, especially for having a major
publisher,
like Sony, Microsoft, or whoever being the one that publishes your game. If they've got like an ecosystem or service that they use for these type of things, they're gonna make you link that shit.
Yeah, which again, that's fair. They're doing you a solid by handling publishing, distribution, marketing, etc., for your game. That in my opinion, that's a fair compromise. What isn't fair, however, is there was actually one tweet that I saw that kind of irked me. It was one of the players who's coming out saying, how did you not, basically calling Arrowhead Studios out, saying, hey, this is kind of your fault because, why did you sell this game when you knew that a large majority of people could play it? And that guy, first of all, that guy got lambasted in the comments because, in case people don't know, when you go through a publisher, you as a developer don't handle anything but the creation and update and maintenance of the game. The publisher handles all the selling, all the marketing, putting it up on things like Steam and whatever else. They handle all of that. You just make the damn game. So the fault lies solely with Sony in that regard.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is that because it was like a snap decision near like almost right at the end before the launch to turn off the mandatory linking, with at that point, it would be intentional that they would at one point reintroduce it like they did. I will say they should have let people know that it was going to be reintroduced as mandatory. That's what I will say. That people should have been aware of that.
That's what Johan mentioned. He in his words, he's like, basically what it amounts is, I thought I had let people know, in the correct manner. Meaning I guess he figured he said, hey guys, this is what's coming down the line. This, while we're not having it at launch, this is something that's going to be implemented later on. But again, he's CEO of a large, a fairly decent sized studio, and he's got other things to think about on a day to day. So could it have slipped his mind? Yeah. Is he evil for it? No, he's just a fucking human being.
People fuck up. I mean,
yeah, he's just a human.
But yeah, the main decision that, like, say, Sony made, because they were in charge of distribution, was selling it in countries that they know it wouldn't be available in later.
Yeah.
And that's the thing right there, honestly.
I mean, yeah, that is a big deal when you're selling a product in a country, or in countries that if you're going to implement a particular service that would preclude them from taking part in that, you should probably, make that known. Here's the thing. This is one thing I will say about the community of Helldivers 2. They made their displeasure known with basically review. And here's the thing. There was another thing where one of the community managers of Arrowhead Arrowhead Games, actually called for the player base to review bomb Helldivers 2. Surprisingly enough, the guy still has a job, but I in a way I applaud him for doing that. And the reason why I say that is because we've seen it time and time again. These publishers, the major studios, they'll only listen to their constituents when their bottom line's affected.
Yeah.
And literally, Helldivers 2 was on the verge of topping Overwatch 2 as the most downvoted or negatively reviewed game on Steam. I don't know who's number one now, but I think Overwatch is still number one.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a bit about. We'll get to this part in a bit later, but they have rolled things back, and a lot of people are essentially changing their reviews or removing them, so that review ratio is going to be changing for a while as people kind of take back their.
Ironically enough, Johan Palstad is such a Chad. He actually posted up a screenshot of the kind of bars for the negative reviews and said maybe this could be a good cape idea. For the game.
He knows how to take things in stride, that's for sure.
I mean, look, there's a couple other pieces like that I really want to highlight, because it shows the camaraderie of not only the developers at Arrowhead Games but also the community. Maybe get into more of that in a second.
Maybe I'm just a protagonist in all this, but I say don't take your review back.
Protagonist? Are you
mean the antagonist?
You mean
pot stir, shit causer, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But
shit poster.
don't change your review. I mean, here's the thing with that. When it comes to these type of things, and who knows what the real situation is to how this happened. But okay, so you demonstrate the power of the community to get it changed. And then they change it, and then you reward them for bad behavior in the first place by changing your review. Okay, it's a good game. That's great. But why go in and they fucked up? Why go change your review? Leave it out there.
As rewarding.
Here's also one counter that I have to that, Greg. I get what you're saying. You don't want to reward, essentially bad behavior with a pat on the head. However, do you think that still applies when Arrowhead Games?
I absolutely think it still applies, and the reason I think it still applies is very simply because it's a if you catch me thing, because it promotes that environment where they can do these things, and then they only have to correct it if they're caught. Where the motivation should be, don't do this stuff to begin with, because this is what's going to happen. It's the carrot and the stick idea. I mean, as long as they're able to just backtrack and say, oh, we made a mistake here, we'll change it back. There you go. And why do you think these things continue to happen? Why?
Yeah. No, I definitely see the point you're saying, and I think there are a lot of people who aren't changing their reviews for that very reason.
Good.
Yeah,
I
I have
think
heard.
there are also a lot of people who don't want to punish Arrowhead for Sony's decision by keeping those negative reviews up, because that does affect the sale of the game. So there's like when it comes to that, I'm gonna say that's up to your own personal beliefs and what you want to stick by there, because there are reasons to keep it negative and also reasons to change it. So whatever floats your boat for what you believe, I'm not gonna knock you either way, honestly.
Okay. So here's the thing with that, and I get it. And Arrowhead spoke out as well. Okay. I'm going to err on the side of defending the consumer all the way around. I don't know what the contract is, what Sony's contract is, or what type of contract Arrowhead has with Sony. Well, exactly. Garrus is, we're going to paint Arrowhead as the good guys. I don't think there's any good guys. The loser in this case is the consumer, regardless of who we want to paint as the good guys. Arrowhead just needs to continue to make good games and be more vigilant in making sure that their community isn't getting screwed over. I mean, that's the thing. We give all the power. We basically are saying that Sony has all the power in this and Arrowhead's completely innocent. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all.
I did say a bit ago that they should have done a better job in letting people know that this was down the line.
Okay, so hold them accountable all the way around. If you put a bad review out there as part of the community because they, they fucked around and they found out, if you want to put it that way, don't go back later and say, okay, well now you fixed it, so now we're good. You're only promoting that behavior.
Yeah. And Old Man Garrus, we did. I don't know if you were here at the start of the stream, but we did address that that piece that he did admit to fault. And again, my hat's off to him for taking some ownership. No, you're good, man. He did take ownership for that. And again, my hat's off to him, because while this is my personal opinion, Sony was definitely the one to drop the ball majorly. You guys make a good point. I mean, should he really though? Because again, from what I read of the tweets,
it's his game. And videos, he knew it was a requirement. Why shouldn't he?
You are correct. It is his game. He knew it was a requirement. And again, in the tweets, I'm pretty sure he addresses that. He does admit to not necessarily. How do I put this? I wish I had the tweets in front of me. They're buried in
honestly, this looks like a situation where they just let it happen and hope that people wouldn't notice, essentially.
You might be right. I don't think that's the case. Honestly, I don't think that's the case. I think what they did do, and again, he's already apologized for this, and you are, after hearing what you said, you are correct in the manner that he knew it was a requirement. It had to happen at some point. If it didn't happen at launch, he should have kept the community more informed. So and again, he's owned up to that.
So the question becomes this, Rob: does that apology? Does that okay? I owned up to it. I mean, does that make it okay?
No. Here's what I'm gonna say, because I already said he definitely should have done a better job of letting people know this was down the line in the first place.
Yes, Garrus, that is his quote. Yep.
Yeah, and second of all, and this is me kind of speculating, because I can't know what's going through the man's mind, what he is and isn't doing, behind the scenes, because they've done a good job of being very community driven and fostering that community. So there is a chance where he may have not, and let me reiterate, speculating here, I can't say for sure, but he may have kind of already knew that this was coming and maybe didn't think it was that big a deal. And then when he saw the community up in arms. He decided to get into action too.
Didn't think it was that big of a deal to sell his product to potentially millions of people that were not even going to be able to use the product at a certain point.
Okay, well that's distribution, which is on Sony's, which he may or may not.
He knew about this 6 months ahead of time.
Piece.
That's it. We're not to lay the blame totally on Sony and make excuses for what this guy in Arrowhead Studios did. Honestly, is ridiculous. They need to own it just as much as Sony does. And I'm not. Here's the thing: Arrowhead does good work. They really do. They do good work, and they did a fantastic job building this community up. The saddening part to it is they did this fantastic work to build this community, which is alive and vibrant, and then they effed them with this whole thing. Man. Now they got a lot to answer for with that. They got some making up to do, and I think people should question. They should be looking at that relationship with a little bit of suspect there. Like, okay, wait a minute now. You know, I trusted you, and this is what you did. I'm not saying don't trust them in the future. Sure, do that. I mean, you know, people do make mistakes. I get it. But I personally, I'm not one for saying, okay, yep, you made a mistake. That's okay. Here's your pat on the head now. You fixed it. You're a good boy. No, you did this.
Hold them accountable.
It looks like you did it deliberately. I'm not making excuses for you.
Like it does. And here's the thing. How do I put? I'm trying to find the proper way to put this, because I find myself agreeing with you, Greg. I find myself agreeing with you in that.
I like Arrowhead Studios, so I just want to be, you know, I think they do some really great work.
You're just being honest, like
right.
You're being genuine. Like again,
I'm not willing to just give them a free pass on this. No,
yeah,
you know, answer for what you did. It's okay to say I'm sorry and say take ownership for it, but that doesn't mean that you know that the rest of us should stand up here and say, well, look, they took ownership for it. It's all good now. No, it's not. You got to make up for that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: the blame isn't like solely on one or the other side.
No, they both.
I'd say most of it lies with Sony, but Arrowhead does have its part. I'm not going to put like a ratio or percentages there, but I do think Arrowhead has a part that they should be held accountable for.
No, I do. I agree. And to answer your question, Old Man Garris, no, they're not, because again, this is standard practice. Again, we kind of went over that towards the beginning of the episode. It is standard practice to have all of these, you know, different studios and entities that have ecosystems and communities of their own. If they're publishing someone else's game, you know, that those accounts get linked. That is standard fare. We've been doing it for years. It's nothing new. My thing is on the Sony side. There's actually two pieces that were suggested that I agree with. Number one, they could have made it optional, which is what they're doing. They're making it optional. Could have made it optional because, again, enough people outside of their network had already bought the game. So why shoot them in the fucking foot? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They could have made it optional, which is what they ended up doing. And number two, and this is in my opinion, would have been the smarter play. Make it optional, and hey, if you do make a PlayStation Network account and you link it to the Helldivers 2 account, you get some free shit, some free cosmetics.
Yeah, like trust me, a cape or whatever.
Trust me, people will take the time to link an account for free shit.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of games.
I've done it.
Yeah, I think a lot of games offer stuff like that. Like, hey, if you link this, you'll get this neat little thing. It's usually a small thing, but
all the shit that came out for Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk, you link your Twitch account and you watch at a certain time, and you have Amazon Prime, you get all these little free like weapons and shit. I did that. I would sit there with fucking Twitch in the background, have that shit on mute, watching some fucking Twitch streamer streaming Cyberpunk at a certain time, get my free shit. Give me that. Of course, that's what they should have done, but they didn't. They decided, well, we're going to make it mandatory, and they got land based for it.
Yeah, I mean, Warframe does something similar. You can link your Twitch account, and the Warframe devs actually do dev live streams on Twitch all the time. So you could watch them and get rewarded in game for watching their stream. It's there are tons of ways that they could have done this in a far better way than what they did. But,
no, I just I feel like we should probably address that comment.
Garrus woke up and chose
He did.
fighting today. Chose
Yeah,
fighting.
I like it,
All right,
man.
I like it.
I got somebody on my. It's like a fourth person today. I got somebody on my side of this argument for a change.
So I'm
Good
just going to read
stuff.
that one out real quick for folks not reading the chat.
Yeah.
So this is from Old Man Garrus. So what you're saying is that what Sony put in their contract with Arrowhead to be their publishers, even though Arrowhead legal reviewed and signed off on it, it's Sony's fault that the game dev didn't implement it at launch and put it as a requirement. And you know what? That's extremely fair because that was a snap decision made by Arrowhead last second.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they had the legal I guess the legal right to do that or not. We don't know what that contract looks like. But I mean, they both corroborate, like both Sony and Arrowhead corroborate that it was supposed to have been there from the beginning. So that is a very fair point, Garrus, and that again, it's like we're saying, it's not a fault that is completely on Sony. Arrowhead does have a part in this as well.
Somebody mentioned something about good guy, bad guy. I think Garrus did mention something about who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. There's, here's the thing with this. If you really want to look at it from that standpoint, the good guy in this case is the consumer. Also, the one who got shit on is the consumer. The bad guy is both of these guys. Sony and Arrowhead both are the bad guys. Period. There's no we can look at it as percentage of who shared what, who did. They both did this. Right. It's not one's better than the other or one's less responsible than the other. They both did this. And they should absolutely, and in part they've been held partially accountable by their community. The fact that the community is willing, or some of them are willing to back off of that now and go in and change the reviews if that's happening, which it sounds like it is. Don't do that. That's all I'm saying. Don't do that. Hold them accountable and stay firm to what you're, stay firm to your conviction. You had enough conviction to speak out and say, hey, look, you're screwing me and I don't like it. Fix it. Don't go back later and say, okay, now it's fixed, so it's okay now. Because all you're doing is telling these guys that, you can do whatever you want until we catch you, then you got to fix it. And that's the bad approach. It's absolutely going to screw the consumer every single time, because it gives them that opening. They should understand that if you do stuff like, if you behave this way, then we're going to negative review bomb the hell out of your product and stop the sale of it potentially. So just don't do it. Do what you're supposed to do. Create value for us, the consumers, and give it to us at a fair price, and we'll make sure that you make money because we're going to buy it. Don't go out there and try and, whatever fancy financing you want to try and do and end up screwing us over in the end. Give us something good, and we'll stick to you. We'll trust you, and we'll continue to buy your product. Simple as that.
What? I find myself agreeing with Greg on that one wholeheartedly. I'm surprised.
Well, I think one thing that
I'm not surprised. We're the three of us are, despite our arguing and bickering, we're fairly aligned on quite a few things. But my next kind of question to Old Man Garrus and to Greg, I mean, and to our audience at large, but the two of you, because you guys have made your stance quite obvious. With regards to kind of what you said, Greg, I agree with you. I agree with you like 95%. The 5% where I not say don't agree with you, it's something that's a concern, not just for Arrowhead or for any studio, but for every studio that potentially goes to this, especially within the Steam ecosystem. You review bomb a game, it's pretty much, and then you leave the reviews the way it is. It's pretty much dead. Like it won't even, most likely won't even show up on people's radar anymore, and that could negatively affect sales, which negatively affects the studios. Now, given that Arrowhead and Sony, fix their shit, do they deserve to still get screwed over by the algorithm and metrics that goes through Steam? Because again, like, I mean, you look at any game that has overwhelmingly negative reviews, and like literally, if you looked at it yesterday, or it was either yesterday or the day before yesterday, it was overwhelmingly negative. They had over 300,000 negative reviews. They weren't even coming up on my recommended, and then prior to that, they were.
That's the fuck around and find out to it. I mean, here's the thing, and you do stupid, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Simple as that. Do they deserve to have some impact? Yeah, they do. They deserve to have some impact. Absolutely.
I see what you did there, Infinity Core.
Personally, I still stand by my previous comment to where I say that depends on the values that each person holds there. Because essentially, this is a matter of forgiveness.
What you allow will continue.
Forgive them
Simple as
for
that.
this action. Because they rolled it back. And for some, that may be enough to forgive them and be like, okay, you rolled it back. You listened to the community. I'm willing to support you again. And if that's how you feel, then that's fine. If they pull shit again, then the community has proven that they're going to do this again.
Sony's been around for a long time.
They fucking have.
How many times do we draw a line in the sand and say, if you cross that line, and then they cross it, and then we draw a new line? Oh, wait, if you cross that line. I mean, how many times? I'm okay with the forgiveness idea, but I will forgive you on your next product. Not this one, because you already screwed me here.
Well, here's the thing. These people aren't fans of Sony. They're not going to be looking at the next Sony product. This is fans of Arrowhead's Helldivers 2. I think there's a difference there.
I'm quite sure that Sony is they're all big boys over there. They can handle it.
This
I have no forgiveness in any of this. That's my stance on it. I really don't. There's no forgiveness at all from me. You did this, and you need to be accountable for what you did. That's how simple it is for me. You did this. You did
Greg
this, like literally did this to your own community. Which, great job building that very large, great community that you built. You did this. And that's the Arrowhead piece to it. Sony, Sony is Sony. They're going to continue to do what they do. But they're back up and say, okay, you fixed it. It's okay. No, it's not okay. And you need to get that through your head as a company. You need to understand that if I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to support you as a company, there are expectations. And, I've got to, you got to meet those expectations, period. And continue to create great product. Good. That's one check mark. Now, be trustworthy. That's the next check mark. And me personally, I'm not that, I believe in a mulligan. You can screw up once, and I'm good with that. But when you continuously are doing the same things, no.
Well, hold on. You just said you can mess up once and you're good with that. So essentially, the first strike you can forgive. Is that what you're saying right there?
Okay, yes, I am saying that. Here's the thing. Sony, for one, this is definitely not the first strike.
No.
Arrowhead, I don't know well enough to say whether it is or not, but I'm just going to err on the side of caution and say that if they're doing this now, they've done it before. Maybe.
That's hard to say because Airhead has never seen this much attention, and they've never been in a position like this before.
Yeah. I don't
I mean,
think Arrowhead has fumbled
Well,
back.
hopefully they've
this
learned their lesson and they will never put themselves in this type of position again from the
I'm
negative
sure.
side.
Yeah.
And I hope they do fantastic and they continue to create great games. And, you know, a Helldivers
Yeah.
3 maybe. But,
Yo, dudes,
you know,
the
do it
Empire's pretty
do it-
cheap. Maybe
do
you
it the
could,
right
like,
way.
join it or something.
build this massive community and then take care of your community. Don't build them so you can abuse them. You know, that's not, no.
Yeah, that's.
Thank you,
Thanks
Harper.
for the resub, Harper.
12 months.
Damn, a whole year.
One whole ass year. Damn, we've been doing this a whole last year.
It still wows me that we've even been at it that long.
It feels like way longer and not that long at the same time.
And we're still
Yeah.
we're still friends, believe it or not. I mean,
Right?
Crazy. How do we do it?
Yeah.
But,
we get along once in a while. I mean,
Well,
from time to time.
Yeah.
But so I feel like I was on a train of thought there, and then I completely lost it. What was I going to say? God damn it!
well, I
Someone
was
say
actually going to
something.
say a little something.
we do have plenty of other topics to move on to. I mean,
We do,
That
but
is true.
the reason why I started with this particular topic is because it kind of leads me into something that I wanted to talk about a little bit here. We're not going to spend, I mean, well, depends on how this conversation goes, but I don't want to spend too much on it. But this, again, this is something it's not new. Like this situation where community gathers behind a thing and makes their displeasure known and gets things corrected. You know, course corrected isn't new. It's happened before. You know, the biggest ones in my memory are things like the OGL and all the hoopla with Hasbro, Owatsi, this instance, and a couple other
Sonic
ones.
the Hedgehog movie.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Remember Sonic's first design? Oh,
That was fucking terrible. You know, and
Internet saved that movie.
it's happening and it's continued happening. I mean, Fallout is another one. You know, Fallout. We're going to actually get to that particular conversation here in a minute, but you're seeing communities really start to gather around the things that they care about, they spend money on, and it's, first of all, it's refreshing.
yeah.
Because and again, I'm not saying this is a rare thing, but it, up until recently, it felt like a rare thing, and it could be maybe I wasn't looking in the right places. But I guess my question to everybody is, what do y'all think? Is this something that's fairly new that people are starting, not just in the gaming industry, just across the board? It feels like people are starting to kind of wake up and really learn to, in a way, stand up for themselves, stand up for what matters to them. You know, on a larger scale than just, like, you know, on an individual basis. Like people are learning, you know, like, hey, look, no, if we don't like this as a collective, let's make that shit known. And do you think it's going to continue? And what do you think is going to be the response from a lot of these corporations and large companies? Now, there's a couple of questions there, but I'm generally
there's
curious.
quite a few. There's quite a few questions. So here's what I believe, and when it comes to, like, has this always been a thing? I don't know. Maybe it's just that, like, you know, back in the day, I didn't always pay attention to this type of thing.
Yeah,
as I do
I
now.
feel like I fall into that
But-
category. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention to certain things, or
But-
maybe the things that I paid attention to, it just didn't happen there. So-
Maybe, but here's what I do believe either way, because as we've seen, like, over the years, the nature of the games industry, the way that they, you know, the predatory business practices, the bullshit, people are getting very sick and tired of that shit, and it's only gotten worse each year. So people are pissed. That's what I'll say. When they had something that they really liked with Helldivers 2, it, like, Helldivers 2 at launch, before this whole snafu happened, it was kind of in the same vein of, like, Larian Studios Baldur's Gate 3, where it was this resounding success from not like a huge company. Even if it was Sony publishing, it was developed by a relatively kind of small studio like AA, I think. And so
Yeah,
it's
I
a
would
success
categorize.
no one
Arrowhead as
expected,
double A.
and it had, just like Baldur's Gate 3, it felt like a game that actually respected you, which is especially rare for a live service model these days. So most of the times when you get a live service game, it feels like they're trying to nickel and dime you, squeeze everything out of you as they could. But from everything I've heard, that's not the feeling people get when playing Helldivers 2. The monetization is there, but it doesn't feel like they're being pressured into it constantly. They feel like it respects them and their wallets. So when they finally get something that's a kind of reprieve from all that other bullshit that we've gotten used to, it would make people really mad when the bullshit happens, And I think it goes to show how strong a community that Arrowhead have managed to cultivate with this. That they were able to actually organize to do this mass review bombing and the refunds, which, pissed Steam off. Steam probably had some words for Sony, like, hey, we're offering a bunch of refunds, but we're having to process this shit. Whatever you're doing, fix it. Probably something like that. I don't know. I just know Steam probably wasn't happy about this either. But I do think people are getting fed up with the way things are and are starting to learn that, like, what can we actually do about this? And we are starting to learn, like yelling about it on Twitter or whatever, it's fine and dandy, but doing that by itself isn't going to change anything. You got to hit their bottom line. So do the review bomb, do the refunds, do all that shit, because that's what will actually make a difference.
Is that it? Got anything else you want to add to that, or
I might have missed a few questions in there. Rob asked quite a few. I know. Okay, will companies change?
Or rather, will they change, or
will-
what do you think the change is going to be? How do you think they're going to pivot?
I think that depends on if this is a consistent course of action that communities prove to be able and willing to take. Because if this is just an exception, then I don't think much is really going to change. But if people do this time and again, like really prove that, hey, we aren't going to stand for this shit, then I do believe that the changes will be made. Do I think communities everywhere are going to be able to do that? I don't know. The pessimist in me wants to say probably not. I don't know if I don't think many communities besides the Helldivers 2 community could have done this, but I would love to be proven wrong. I think that covers most of your questions, Rob. I may have missed one or two, but that's my answer.
No, that answers it. That answers that question. What about you, Greg?
That was a long answer.
What was a long
A lot of questions.
I don't think this is a new behavior at all. I think technology has changed things. We have the tools now to be able to do this, to group into a much larger community than we've ever been able to do in the past, and be impactful with it. Now, I also think it's a double-edged sword, because this type of behavior can be used for the wrong reasons as well. I think this particular reason is a good and right reason, because, I mean, this was a bad thing for the community, period. This is a situation where these people were truly taken advantage of.
Oh, yeah.
But the same type of behavior can also be used very destructively, which I think I know we've seen that happen as well. So
yeah,
good.
And we've talked about that on other episodes, review bombing and whatnot. Yeah.
So there's that piece to it. Do I think the companies are going to change? No. And precisely for what we've already spent plenty of time talking about. It comes down to the accountability piece. I mean, we have the platform to be able to call them out and be able to start to hold them accountable, but the accountability piece has to be something that is in place. It's not something that can be legislated. I mean, that's not going to help anything. We have to hold them accountable, the community. We have to be willing to say, look, you did this, don't do it again. And, you know, this is the consequences of your actions right here. I'm not going to back off of it. I'm not going to take my review down. Because, I mean, what did I put in that review? If it wasn't the truth, then okay, yeah, take it down, because you're just venting bullshit. So yeah, take that down. But if it's the truth, leave it there. Leave it there. It's a record that's there for time eternity. You did this. You really want to own it? Here it is. I'm not going to wipe the slate clean and say, okay, you know, oh, well, you fixed it, so now it's all forgiven. Later on down the road, when you do it again, there's no record there. It's, you know, oh, well, we made a mistake. Again, how many times are you going to do this? So there's that piece. I don't think the companies are going to change unless we provide an incentive for them to change. And now there are companies out there that are taking a different path. And I do think that Larian Studios is one of those companies that is taking a different path. And, you know, that's the kind of behavior that we should be promoting. We should be looking at that behavior as a community and ramping it up and saying, look at these guys. And by nature, what will happen is some of the the bad actors in here are going to look at the fact that, hey, look at their communities getting behind them. They're growing. Things are going really well. So what are they doing? And what do we need to do? And that's the nature of business, is to look at your competitor and see what they're doing right and say, okay, we need some of that. And as long as everything is focused on bottom line profits, then that's exactly where the behavior is going to go, is bottom line and profits, because that's the measure of whether you're successful and whether you're doing things right. Some companies choose a different path. Larian, I think, is one of those companies. And I could be completely wrong. I don't know. I'm not on the inside of Larian. But from what I see, it looks as though that is a company that is much more interested in, you know, providing value to their community and building a community. Now, I'm sorry, what was the last question? I got caught up on that one. What was the last question you asked?
Pretty much if you thought companies were going to change going forward, which
so I did answer
definitely
that.
answered. Answered that one.
So yeah, my answer is no. Unless we can do much better at holding them accountable for the bad behavior, I don't think they will change. I think we'll just see more of this, and we'll probably see more of this same behavior. A company like Sony is so big and they've been around so long that it's going to be hard to change those folks. I mean, they function the way they function because they've always been able to function that way. So that's a choice from inside that, you know, big ship that they're going to have to decide to turn, and then that change is slow to happen. So a company, you know, a group like Arrowhead, they're a small company, small studio. They could change that situation really quickly. That's a matter of just saying, hey, okay, yeah, that didn't work. We effed up. We're not going to do that again. We got to make a plan to make sure that that's not going to happen, because we value our community and we want to keep these people, you know, as part of that community and not be messing around with the relationship.
Oh yeah, and that's something that that Arrowhead does exceptionally well, is their community. They know just how much they rely on their community for their success, so they do what they can to do right by their community. And as I said before, you know, maybe they thought this wasn't going to be a big deal, and they saw their community making a big stink of it. That's when they changed their tune. Maybe. I can't say because I'm not in that CEO's head. But either way, if they're community driven and want to continue cultivating that goodwill and do right by their people, then whatever the reason, I think that's better than what most else you see out there, especially for live services.
That's a good point. And honestly, I I can agree with I agree with you guys on pretty much all points. I'm not gonna, and again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but yeah, I honestly don't think I am excited and I'm glad that communities are coming together and making the taking a stance and being this impactful with it, that it's giving folks pause at the top. I'm sure it is. I'm sure people are like, hold on, wait a minute. Is it really going to change anything? Again, I kind of agree with you guys. Yes and no. Is it going to change the companies? No. Are folks coming to realize that, hey, they have more agency and more power than they probably realized? Yeah. And I think we're going to see that hopefully wielded in a responsible manner going forward. But I agree with you, Greg. It is a double-edged sword where, unfortunately, if someone, with the way society is now and the way kind of the industry is, in certain circles, you say the wrong thing to somebody or about something and people are going to get hair up their ass, and, things can go sideways really quickly. But hopefully, again, we wield this responsibility, because it is a responsibility on us to again hold these folks accountable. We wield it responsibly, and hopefully things, slowly but surely kind of maybe get a little bit better. But that remains to be seen. On to the next topic of conversation, another large.
That was smooth. That was smooth right there. not really, but yeah, it works, man. Let's go. What's the next one?
You threw me off. God damn it. So Ghost of Tsushima requires PlayStation to play MP on PC. Where's that screaming audience? I don't know.
I mean, the question was that functional from the start? Because that's the big thing. I'd say if anything moving forward, Sony's going to make sure that those functionalities for linking the account is as they intend from the get-go. They're not going to do this couple months down the line bullshit again.
No, I mean, that didn't serve anybody. And Arrowhead Studios should have, in all honesty, they should have had their shit together where that was something, that was a feature that worked, that they didn't have to, remove that because something wasn't working. That again, that's such a mainstay feature nowadays. That's something they should have had working. I will totally admit that, and I think the CEO admitted that as well.
Well, we're
kind of circling that wagon a little too much here. I was kind of moving us on to another high-profile entity that their community kind of checked them really hard, kind of kicked them in the teeth, and has still continued to kick them in the teeth. And now their competitors are kicking them in the teeth. I'm talking about Hasbro WotC.
Who?
So they have had a bit of a year, and it's not been looking good for them. Their CEO, Cynthia Williams, I'm pretty sure that's her name, is leaving. She's stepped down. I believe she's still with WotC until they find a replacement, but she will be leaving, I believe, in 2025, if not sooner. I think that's her slated, and I believe she's leaving the company as a whole, not just WotC. I think she's leaving Hasbro. We did talk about that in an earlier episode, but yeah, they've taken some hits. Notably, they reported Q4 of 2023. This was reported this past February, that they took a loss of $1.4 billion as a whole.
It was 1.04?
Yeah, something like that. I think it was 1.04.
I think it was 1.04 rather than 1.04. But either way, a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, $1 billion, we'll say, give or take. $1 billion loss. They hit them in Q4 of last year. And remember, last year was the whole OGL situation, and that was another instance where the community decided, no, we ain't gonna stand for this shit. The good thing, though, that kind of happened from that situation, that I agree with, that a number of notable content creators for D&D content and tabletop content in general seem to agree with, is that in a way, it's kind of a soft breaking of the monopoly that Wizards of the Coast, D&D, have on the tabletop community.
Oh yeah.
In that there's been a lot of, one of their main competitors, Pathfinder, from Paizo, sold out of literally 8 months of inventory in 2 weeks after the OGL situation was made public. 8 months of stock sold out in 2 weeks. D&D Beyond, which was acquired by Hasbro WotC sometime last year. I can't remember exactly when. It was either last year or the year before. That took a kind of similar to actually kind of similar to Warhammer Plus. A whole other situation we might get into at some point in one of these episodes. But again, D&D Beyond saw 40. I think the number ended at like 40,000 subscribers cancel their subscription. To the point that and again, this is my speculation, to the point that towards the end of that, I was paying attention to it, and I've heard people were having trouble canceling their subscription because WotC was putting up so many roadblocks to try and keep them.
Oh yeah, I mean, you ever tried to cancel a subscription to Amazon Prime? That's a pain in the ass.
So many clicks.
I know.
Basically, they're using the barrier to entry in the reverse. The barrier to exit's really fucking high.
Yeah, they make that shit. They make that shit difficult on purpose.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Are you sure you want to leave? Are you
exactly.
are you really sure you want to leave? Are you really sure you want to leave?
Okay, now find the option. Find the option to actually leave. Where you click that, I'm not telling you. Yep. Good luck finding it.
Yep, yeah. So a couple notables that are actually coming out in lieu of this kind of soft breaking of the monopoly, the stranglehold that D&D has on the TTRPG community, are two of them, which I think I've mentioned here on the channel before, but MCDM, which is actually created by Matt Colville, who is one of the OGs of kind of the YouTube D&D content creation piece, and DC-20, which is ran by the Dungeon Coach. Those are two systems that were created by those gentlemen and their teams, basically improving upon the 5th edition kind of framework. Essentially, a lot of people are calling these two systems what 6th edition or this new 5.5 edition coming out later in 2024 should have been. If you're interested in them, I suggest going and checking them out. But those two competitors, and then you guys will know, you'll know who this one is, Critical Role's Daggerheart, which is by far the largest competitor to D&D. Now, haven't played it yet. I have the playtest material. Greg actually was there Gen Con last year to kind of check out some of their stuff. Well, not specifically to check out some of their stuff, but he did manage to check out some of their things. But I think you said unfortunately there was no like games being played when you were there, Greg.
No, they were playing the only one that they were playing when I was there was the
Candela Obscura.
No, that hadn't actually come out yet. Okay. They had just introduced that as of Gen Con. But the Bride game, sorry, it's not something that interests me. They have the princess game. They have I don't know how to explain it. They were playing something.
I'm gonna have to go check that one. No,
but there was nobody. There was nobody at the. There was no one there to represent them. There was nothing. It was just an empty table sitting there with a couple banners, and and some people in the background that were playing a game. But it wasn't. I forget what the name of it was.
Gotcha.
Needless to say, I was not impressed because it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. And I went over there thinking, these guys should be really, right. Everybody, this is, big hype and everything. And I get over there and there's nothing going on. Right.
Damn. So. That says quite a lot. so those are, a couple of 3 top systems coming out. You have Cobalt Press putting out more stuff. There's the thing about, the OGL situation, and again, circling back to kind of the main topic of this particular episode, is the community spoke up and made their displeasure known. And again, they're still holding D&D is still being held accountable. So it's and then unfortunately, D&D, WotC themselves have kind of not helped their particular situation. They've essentially they broke with Penguin Random House, so they're not doing the physical books anymore. They've been pushing their VTT and kind of the digital content piece so hard that it seems that people are moving to other options and exploring other options. And the curious thing for me is I'm wondering if it's because D&D, or solely because D&D is moving to digital content, trying to push that piece, or are they finding these other systems and games just that much more interesting? Because I'll be honest with you. This is just my opinion and my perspective. The shit that D&D and WotC are putting out now kind of sucks. It kind of sucks.
It certainly doesn't
kind of
have
lackluster.
It certainly doesn't have the same hype surrounding it as it used to. Like, I believe I heard someone say that Spelljammers was really that kind of like almost turning point where people kind of stopped being as like excited for what WotC was putting out, because from my understanding, Spelljammers was a little disappointing as far as like the first party content that WotC put out. So,
and then the content they put out since then has just been bad as well. Like Glory of the Giants, they got called out for using AI art.
Yeah, so
it seems like they've been cutting corners a little too much.
Yeah, so I mean, this is what I'm going to say, because I don't want WotC to fail, because I do enjoy Dungeons and Dragons as a game, as a world, as a setting, all that stuff. I do also want its competition to succeed, because if they start having some real competition, because the competition is ramping up, but D&D is still the titan. They're still at the top. But as competition ramps up, what I want is for D&D to improve, to see that, hold up, our competition is starting to pick up a lot of steam because we're losing people that aren't being happy with what we're doing. We need to make a change. Why are these people leaving? What is disappointing them? Yada, yada. So that incentivizes them to improve, look at where they should be going and go in that direction. That's what I want to happen. Not WotC's complete failure, but for them to improve as their competition catches up. Because that pretty much ends up making the best environment for having great options for us as consumers to pick from. D&D gets better, as well as its competition catching up. That's the best for us, honestly.
Well, I mean, it's been called out by a number of content creators, and I'm sure we've talked about it as well, where WotC, the OGL was basically their attempt to strangle that competition, and it failed. And they've been trying they've been trying here and there to continue doing it in other ways, but namely, one of the major ways that has recently come out is those of you who know, Larian Studios, the creators of Baldur's Gate 3, bought a license to make that game from WotC. So that's piece number one, and I'll get to that in a second. Larian Studios and WotC they've kind of parted ways. There's basically going to be no major update or DLCs for Baldur's Gate 3. I'm sure they're going to still patch in some stuff and do some bug fixes and stuff like that. But no major content's going to be coming out from Baldur's Gate 3 out of Larian Studios. As a matter of fact, they've already teased a new project that they're working on. So Sven Vink and everybody at Larian, they've moved the fuck on. They're like, hey, we got other shit we can work on, and more power to them.
Divinity Original Sin 3. I
Maybe.
love 1 and 2. I'll probably, if they keep up the good work, I know I'll love 3.
Yeah, well, more likely. But with that break, and kind of circling back to my earlier point, it's looking like WotC and Hasbro are going to try and make their own in-house games. Ironically enough, the last game that they made that was in-house that was actually pretty good was Neverwinter Nights 2. And that was I'm going to say almost 20 years ago now, if not longer.
Let's find out.
So they've actually been reported to be putting $1 billion towards creating a next game. Whatever. They haven't said anything, but basically they've put $1 billion towards in-house projects in terms of video games. Which that's in my opinion, that's their second attempt. I feel like for them to try and put a stranglehold back on kind of their market share of the tabletop community and kind of that area. Releasing almost 20 years ago.
Nearly 20 years ago. So here's one thing that I think is a big reason behind them doing this, because doing things in-house is almost always cheaper than outsourcing it to a third party, which was essentially their deal with
Larian.
Larian.
Well, Larian and a number of other places. It wasn't just Larian, but Larian was the biggest one because of the success of Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, so they saw that there definitely is interest for video games based on the D&D world. And so they essentially want to try to capitalize that. At least I'm fairly sure that this is a part of their reasoning. There's usually more than one reason for things, but they want to be able to. They see that there are people interested in this, so instead of using a third party and outsourcing it, they want to do it in-house and try to capitalize on that same market. Just produce it in-house for much cheaper and see if it goes well. And here's the thing: there are people out there that really do like to see a D&D video game. That name alone is probably going to get them some sales there.
Oh yeah.
Is it going to be? Are they going to make the next Baldur's Gate 3? I highly doubt it, but if it's at least a decent game, doesn't have to be great, as long as it's not dog shit, then it's probably going to go pretty well. Which I hope they do make some good games. I won't complain if there's some good D&D video games out there.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah,
if they actually make a halfway decent, game, I'd probably check it out. I hope this isn't another. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be disappointed, but I hope this isn't another attempt at them trying to, rebuild that monopoly that they had on the TTRPG space, because they kind of lost that. Again, they're still at the top, but that group has been loosened. And they're going to try to muscle in and monopolize the VTT space with D&D content because they're creating their own. So the only way you're going to be able to play D&D going forward, at least the way it looks right now, is going to be through their VTT, which is going to come with a subscription and all that jazz. Again, we've talked about this in the past. But again, this is just another example of the community stepping up and really putting their foot down and not taking shit anymore. And I'm glad to see that it's had such an effect on both, Sony and other companies and WotC. Hopefully it continues. Hopefully people, really kind of take ownership and take onus and agency of the things that they spend their money on and enjoy, and speak up when shit is not going the way it should be. Because honestly, that's the only way the things get better.
Yep, pretty much. Like, you know, most corporations and companies, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So like people need to know like when to put their foot down and make their voices heard. And more than just their voices heard, make their wallets heard. That's
I mean,
that's the
so
thing
far
that gets
that's
the
the
attention.
yeah. So far that's the thing that's singing the loudest is when that bottom line is hit. They're running real motherfucking quick to course correct.
Oh yeah, cancel subscriptions, get refunds, do negative reviews, do that stuff. That's what speaks the loudest. As they say, actions speak louder than words. Why are you showing off your phone there, Greg?
Technology. As technology changes, I mean, the industry has to change with it, and that's you know,
that's true.
it's sad, but that's what, you know, a lot of what I think we see happening with the VTT movement. VTT, couple of things. One, it makes the games much more accessible. Two, it's a whole lot more profitable.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
as such, because it's so much more profitable, you can also offer that product at a lower price, so you can lower the barrier of entry. We all, you know, these things in computers, and I mean, we've moved to the digital age. You know, the vast majority of people on the planet at this point, I think, I don't know, I could be wrong with that. But I mean, especially in, you know, the more westernized countries, I mean, we most all of us have some form of internet access. We have the cell phone, smartphone. We have the computers, laptops, iPads or whatever, you know, personal computing devices we have. So we have that ability to be able to use that technology, and boy, do we! I mean, you know, is anybody right now doesn't have a cell phone that's, you know, watching this video? If you do, okay, awesome, man. Some days I wish I didn't have one. But
just a piece of quiet finally.
That's a key piece to it. That puts strain on, you know, the old way, which is having your, you know, your corner game shop, and having that piece of being able to, you know, go and play with people face to face. And that's a unique experience. I had not done before GaryCon this year. I had not done that in a very long time, and it kind of reminded me being able to sit down at a table and play with, you know, face to face with people. It's a different feeling, very different feeling. And I mean,
Do you think it's going to go away with the advent
I
of
don't
technology?
think so. I don't think so. But I mean, the market
Me either.
definitely,
Me either.
you know, for this sector to grow, it definitely has to go into that virtual space. And
that's just what people expect nowadays. That's kind of the expectation.
well, that's where the market's headed. I mean, it's that simple. It's where the market's headed, and, you know, for multiple reasons. You know, how these companies decide to handle that. I mean, they all have to gear up to control market share, however you want to look at it. I mean, the VTTs are the wave of the future, but they're not the only thing, because there's still a lot of people that play. There's a lot of people. Play in person, absolutely. There's a lot of people out there that use other platforms like Google Meets or Zoom or Discord to you know, play these games. The challenge with that is everybody, you know, pretty much everybody has to have a copy of the game to really understand the game. That becomes challenging. Now, whether that's a physical copy or a downloaded copy, and that's where that digital piece comes in, because you can get it cheaper that way. And as you can see, I mean, the prices of hardcover books are going up and up. And the VTT space kind of coasts under that, so it's cheaper to download than it is to, you know, buy your hard copy book. So yeah, that's I don't think that you know, I don't think that the tabletop piece is going away. I think it'll stay alive. It'll stay pretty strong because once you get a taste of that, you get a group together that you enjoy playing with. I mean, live, right? You know, person.
Yeah, that's a unique experience.
Right. It's just so much easier. There's so much more access online. I mean, I'm able to play with. I mean, just us three. I mean, both you guys are in Georgia. I'm in Wisconsin. We play every week, all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about the VTT experience and being able to use the technology to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see kind of what the future holds. I'm excited that people are getting into the TTRPG hobby, regardless of the games that they play. You know, people are it's finally not a niche thing anymore. You know, it's not like, oh, you're weird. You play games in your mom's basement. You play D&D.
There is a side effect to the connectivity that technology brings, and that there's no longer a motivation for personal connection. You know, I think what a lot of people are, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are getting into this online thing, and yeah, I can say it that way because I'm a little older, but they're realizing that, hey, you know what, I have a tolerance for people, but only at arm's length, and what better way to keep them that way than to have my camera and do it this way? Because now when I decide I'm done, I can leave, and there's no awkwardness to it.
Yeah.
You know,
I can just be like, hey guys, I'm going to bed. Bye.
Right. If I don't want to, if I have somebody I don't like, I can just block them. I don't have to worry about running into them on the street. And so what ends up happening is people realize that, you know, somewhere deep down, I think there's a lot of people out there who are realizing that, you know what, I only like certain people. I don't like people. I only like certain people. And that, of course, now we have a platform for that to play out.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I'll get off my soapbox on that one.
No, you're not wrong.
Greg on a soapbox of like, kids these days,
get off my lawn.
Yep. Matt, I'm gonna let you talk about the next topic because you first of all, you've played the game. I haven't. So I'm gonna let you talk about that. Kind of get us into that.
Are we talking about Fallout or the other thing?
That's right. We do have.
Are we talking about Tango Gameworks?
No, we can talk about that last.
I'm trying to figure out which topic. What have I played here?
I played.
I definitely played Fallout.
So moving on to another heavy hitter, we're going to be moving to Microsoft, in part, but Amazon in the other part. But basically the Fallout series, and as of right now, around 65 million people have seen the Fallout show, which I will say, despite the bullshit that was Rings of Power, Fallout was actually really fucking good.
I need to watch it.
Greg, I believe you saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg is a huge Fallout fan, and I am as well. It was really good.
All right. So, what is your favorite character? Let's go there.
From the show?
Yep. What's your favorite character?
I really need to watch this show. Maybe like a free trial.
This is going to be really bad.
You haven't watched it, Matt? Matt's okay.
Yeah. I plan to
vote on kicking him off the screen.
I agree. I want to. I can't remember the main girl's name. I want to say it's Lucy, but I can't fucking remember.
I think it is Lucy.
I think that's her name.
Okay, I think it is. I thought so. I couldn't remember off the top of my head. But Lucy, she's my favorite character. By far my favorite character. She was just her transition from episode 1 to the end was such a journey, and it was hilarious the whole fucking way through. So yeah, she's by far my favorite character. Well, her and the close second is the Ghoul. It's the close second, only because Walter Goggins is a phenomenal actor.
My daughter just informed me today that there are apparently a bunch of TikTok clips that are really centering around the Ghoul character. So he is pretty much
popular.
pretty much the
he's
most
the face.
popular character out of it, right? And a lot of those clips deal with the Ghoul and nudity.
People are thirsting after the Ghoul.
They are.
Interesting,
They are.
considering what the ghouls
It's
are, but
because-
okay.
Look, okay. The makeup and all that shit can only do so much. That's still a conventionally attractive man underneath all that, and it still shows.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
If they can make that
yeah.
look like an actual ghoul, as they're supposed to be, people will not be thirsting after it. But Hollywood magic can only do so much.
I don't know. There are people out there, back in the late '90s that were into the Crypt Keeper. So
Not
Are you
because he was
serious?
hot.
and that's just a doll. I mean, but yeah.
That's
Not
a little
because
weird.
he was attractive.
That was
Those
a
other reasons there.
That's a little weird.
All right,
Little
Matt, I
weird.
gotta go here now because it's I gotta ask this question. So, do you find the Ghoul attractive?
Let me Google an image real quick, just because I don't. Seriously, I've seen some images, but I need to look at it again. Let's see.
Just to make sure.
But I think you're right though. The oddity to it is that out of all the members of the cast, that actor is the only one that didn't do any research on the material. But
Yeah,
he's a
didn't play the
fantastic
game.
actor. So, but
Yeah, didn't play the game or nothing. And again, I'm not knocking him. Walter Goggins, he's admitted, he's like, I'm not a gamer. It's not my thing. I paid attention to what they wanted, and I think I did a good job, and he really did. He did a fantastic job playing the Ghoul. So that that goes to his chops as an actor. But yeah, everyone else played the games. Lucy, I can't remember the actress's name. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay, yeah, no. See, that is way too good looking to be an actual.
Ella Purnell. There we go. Yeah, Ella Purnell. She actually played all of the Fallout games from 1 all the way through in chronological order. I think the only one she might not have played was Fallout 76, but she might have even played that. I don't know, but I know she's played all the mainstays. And she wanted to respect the source material, so that's why she did it. And hats off to her, because we know too often in Hollywood, Rings of Power, they like to put their own spin on things. But she wasn't having any of that. She did her due diligence, did right by the source material, and honestly, she fucking nailed it. That's why she's my favorite favorite character of all. She nailed it. Because you see that kind of naivety and there are rules. You see all of that in all the Fallout games when you start as a Vault Dweller. Like, you see it in all the dialogue and the way people interact, and then when you get out into the fucking world, then you're introduced to what's really is going on. And you're like, holy shit. And she played that.
Wacky world.
She played that to a T, and she did so well with it.
They actually wrote a really good story.
Yes, they did.
At least the first seasons here. I mean, they really wrote a really good story, and the characters are believable. If you have any, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe even people that have never played Fallout before, never really gotten into the Fallout world. I mean, they would probably find that series very interesting because it was well done. It was tastefully done.
It's a very interesting world too.
I think so. I think most people, in fact, yes, there are a number of people who never played the game who love the show. And I would even go so far to say you'd probably love the show more if you've never played the game. Only because
I don't know about
it's
that.
just that well done.
I don't know. You won't have people like me going, "That Ghoul is too attractive." you know.
True.
I don't think there's many people like you in the world, Matt. But
Look,
You're right.
his skin doesn't look like it's falling off. That's not a ghoul.
That's not lore accurate.
Exactly. See, that's what you avoid by having a person who hasn't played the games before.
However, not everything is hunky dory with the Fallout series and Microsoft in general. So while the show actually rekindled kind of a love of Fallout, I mean, it's reported as of April 25th, 5 million players have been playing Fallout games across all of the games, with 1 million in Fallout 76, which by far was the worst one. Or at least one of the worst ones.
I've been seeing tons of people playing Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas. Those two are what I'm seeing a lot of. 4 and New Vegas.
Well,
New Vegas actually developed by Obsidian, not Bethesda.
Yep.
Fallout,
good
though,
work from those folks.
Fallout is, I mean, it's a legacy series that not the the Amazon piece now, but I mean the game itself, because it's been around for a long time, and there's a lot of iterations of the game, all the way from the original Fallout, which was a completely turn-based game, but it was really good. I loved the first Fallout 2, all of them. I have all of them. So when you look at that, it's challenging to make when you turn that into a multiplayer game. I mean, because there's so much there. Each one of those games is in essence its own little world, and you really see that in like Fallout 3, Fallout 4. Where at first you're in the DC Mall area in Fallout 3, and then Fallout 4 moves you to the Boston area, and there's different storylines in both of those games that do kind of merge together. New Vegas came in between those two, and there's some merging in New Vegas as well. There's some call outs to Fallout 3 that are in New Vegas, like the primary actors that are in the Fallout 76 game. One thing that I like that really ties well between all the games, because I think they did really take a wide angle view of all the games and try to put that into the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, they did.
There's one thing that if they really want to like stay true to the Fallout community, there's one thing that they have to do at some point, and that's a Vault 8. That's the clone vault with all the Garys. I mean, you got to have that. It's an.
I was gonna say reintroduce Fisto, but that's a close second.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like Fallout 1 is East Coast, California, all the way through like Las Vegas, because New Vegas is one of the big places you go to there. In Fallout 2, kind of same area. Fallout 3 is where they really started to kind of move in there. They also have a Fallout Tactics game, which is where you're actually running a team of soldiers, Brotherhood of Steel. That's actually an interesting tactical game.
2001. I didn't even know about this game.
Yeah. I definitely, the Fallout series it's very entertaining. It's they keep it light on humor, but yet it still has a dark side to it.
It's dark humor mostly.
It's good.
As I think it should be for a post-apocalyptic setting like that, because it just means because it's such a dark setting, but they inject the dark humor in there, so it's not, you don't get like depressed by it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like even something extremely well written, like and believable, can get heavy on the can get heavy on you if you're just constantly exposed to that. So having the humor in there is like it's a godsend to just make it extremely enjoyable. Because I mean, it's a video game, and at the end of the day, they're just trying to make sure people have fun.
Right.
So why not put all sorts of goofy shit in, in the post-apocalyptic wastelands?
So, Rob, what is your favorite? I would ask you this, Matt, but I mean, you haven't watched the series. So, what is your favorite episode? Let's say, what's your favorite part of it so far?
Well, I finished it all, so.
Is there something that sticks out to you? Is like this piece right here is like that was.
My favorite episode was, well, it's my favorite scenes throughout the show were the ghouls scenes when you kind of see the build up of everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see the backstory and how Vault-Tec, fucked everybody over and kind of what was done to end up where, the show takes place. And just his character, and you get to see his role in it and kind of his position. And again, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but you get to see his position because he has a very unique position in that he's intimately, connected to the story in many ways. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with him and her character, and then everything you find out at the end going forward, in season 2. I'm wondering how that's going to play out. Yeah, shit, I might actually rewatch it. It's that good.
There's several parts in it that are really, really. The whole series is good. I mean, I actually, I have to commend Amazon, Sony, because Sony are the actual producers of it. They did a fantastic job with this. Now there are other things that they've made. The Rings, yes. The one that's really disappointing to me is the Wheel of Time. I'm very saddened by that. And we're doing a book review piece as some of our streams going through the Wheel of Time series, but I just don't think they should have called it the Wheel of Time because it's not the same story. But anyway, I really, really liked the very first episode. I think they did, because they did a really good, awesome story through that first episode in Life in the Vault, and especially when they start to introduce the beginning of that overall story with the members from the other supposed members from the other vault coming in, and I really like that, and it really kind of played well with how the games typically start. You know what I mean? When you first do a playthrough of the game, it really kind of played in well with that.
You start again the naivety, this is our world. This is the only world we've known for so long. It's the only world that there is, and then you get out into the real world and you realize, oh shit, this is St. Kansas anymore.
right. And the lead character, she does such a fantastic job playing that that naivety out in the above world, and her virtue, good values. But in that first episode, they show both sides of that, because you've got the virtuous part, but the dark side is there as well. You know what I mean? So
she's definitely a multifaceted character, and you get to see a lot of those facets throughout the show, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
Well,
do they ever Did they ever show super mutants in the show?
Um,
I don't think yet. They showed gulpers.
No?
I don't think they have yet. No.
Man, how did they not show super mutants? That's got to be in season 2 when they release that.
Maybe.
Oh,
They're such a huge part of like what's out there, like like the dangers.
let me put it to you this way: the show is so good. One of the creators, Timothy Kane, who's a phenomenal game developer, legend in the industry, he went to the premiere and he even said it was good. He really enjoyed it. So, I mean, if the creator says it was good, they did a good job. Counts for a lot in my book.
Yeah, that's a stamp of approval
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
They put a lot into the grocery store scenes, which is a
oh yeah, oh man, that was dark.
that is a take right out of Fallout 3. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously not exactly the same, but yeah, that was good. That was really good. And then the Red Rocket Station, which is a staple piece from the games, the Red Rocket Stations.
Oh yeah, I remember that place.
Yeah. No, they did a fantastic job. If you have not seen the series, I definitely recommend go watch it. Go watch it. You will like it. It's good.
Yeah, it's definitely renewed my interest in like Fallout. Just like I haven't even watched the show. I've just been watching like people on YouTube and Twitch. There a lot of content of the games is coming out. I was like, back in the day, I originally played like Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4 on console.
Mhm.
Now I'm mostly on PC. I'm like, you know what? On Steam, I'm gonna put this show on my wish list because Steam summer sale is coming up. I'm gonna try to get those for cheap. Probably do some mods too. I've definitely seen some modded runs of Fallout games that are just wacky.
Yeah, Fallout 4 has a huge bunch of mods that go everywhere. I mean, if there's anything that you're interested in mods, you can probably find it for Fallout 4.
I've seen the most ridiculous randomizer for like New Vegas, where it doesn't just randomize enemies or like guns and stuff. It randomizes doorways. So meaning that normally a doorway would connect to a certain space that is meant to look like the inside of where you just entered, but it's technically a different space. They randomized that so that a doorway like into what looks like a small house could lead you into a vault or something. Like that shit is completely randomized, and so they have to kind of like build your own mental map of where, like, what leads to what. And it's crazy just seeing the person just completely change where they're at, get blindsided by like something super powerful because they're not supposed to be there yet. They had no idea.
Yep.
The mods are crazy, honestly. You get as crazy as you want.
Yeah, unfortunately though, the next gen Fallout 4 update really fucked with the mods.
Yeah,
it's kind of a disaster in that it didn't really do anything for the game, and a mod community called Fallout London were actually coming out with a DLC-sized mod that kind of changes place, takes the Fallout game and kind of plops it in London. Had to adjust their release date due to that. They weren't necessarily happy about it, especially considering, unlike a lot of mod teams, it sounds like they were actually in pretty close communication with Bethesda. So there is that. Again, not everything is sunny all the time, but I think they've kind of worked that situation out. And I believe once they get the situation fixed with the next gen update, they'll probably release the mod. It looks good. I took a look at their website and everything. It looks pretty dope. Although
it's
to be fair, the games never go overseas, so this is definitely going to be a unique situation because they're doing all the mod team, the group working on this mod or doing all the writing and stuff like that. But from what I've heard, it's supposed to be pretty fucking solid.
Yeah, I'm definitely very interested in that because like because the Fallout series has always been so focused in America, I've always the first Fallout game that I played was 3, but I've always had that question of like, what does the rest of the world look like right now? Is it more
Yeah.
of this, or are they like, are things halfway functional over there? Like, what does that look like? So this is like, it's a mod, so it's technically like non-canon, but if there are talks with folks with Bethesda, then I'll say it's halfway canon because at least I guess some of the intent is there. So finally get a view of what it looks like in another place in the world.
If you pay attention to the lore, and especially in Fallout 3, because they spend a lot of time on the Winter War and the Reds, the Communist Red Chinese. There's actually some missions. There's a Chinese submarine that's just off the coast type of thing. It tells you that, I mean, basically it was like the final destruction scenario where everybody launched their. It wasn't just the U.S. nuked themselves, because the Chinese nuked the U.S. and the U.S. nuked everybody. Essentially, everybody fired their nukes.
Yeah. So like, you can assume that things are pretty fucked up all across the world, but does it look the same over there that it does in America? Do you still have like, say, super mutants, or they have some other whole thing going on over there?
Right.
Like, did Vault-Tec even do things outside of America? Do they have vaults in other places?
Honestly, that's interesting, and I feel like that is something that they should probably expand on, especially if this mod is well received by the community. Because again, it's not just about if it's good gameplay wise. I'm sure, the story is going to be critiqued, for lore accuracy, with the caveat that none of the games have taken place outside of the U.S. So, but again, as long as they keep to the lore, that gives some precedent for ZeniMax to maybe take shit overseas. I think that'd be pretty cool.
It'd be cool, but
Why?
part of the Fallout identity is that kind of Cold War propaganda side to it. That's a big part of what you see of the old world. There's always that Cold War propaganda. So you take it outside of America, you don't really have that anymore. So they'd have to find something else to fill that void of what was I guess one of their themes, I guess you could say. So I can see why they've never really gone outside of the States before, to kind of keep that feeling of the Cold War propaganda.
Well, yeah, that's just a little weird, because I mean it wouldn't be just the United States that had propaganda.
Everybody did.
Right.
True. They'd have to change the propaganda, though, because they've been able to keep that consistent this whole time.
Be right back, gentlemen. Just give me some water.
But either way, I'm very interested to see how Fallout London is handled and what they do there.
I'm interested in seeing it. There was a DLC style mod that was talked about several years ago called Fallout Miami, which looked interesting. What they were showing there never seemed, it didn't come to fruition. So
did it get canceled, or is it just I
am not sure. I'd seen it a couple of times and then it just kind of
they have a website.
There is a Fallout Miami mod. Upcoming mod for Fallout 4. But I don't think it ever actually came to fruition.
Maybe it's still in the works. I don't know. I haven't heard about this one before.
They have some new creatures and whatnot in there. Exotic landscapes. There's a trailer for it.
Yeah, I mean, if they're working in Florida, I'm sure there's all sorts of wacky stuff going on there. Florida's a wacky enough place as it is in real life. Put that post-apocalypse, then I'm sure it's only cranked up to 11. But
But if you go to their website, if you're interested, it looks like they are looking for some help. Current
Fallen London,
Miami.
Miami.
Fallout Miami. Huh?
Yeah, they have. They're looking for some clothing artists, level designers, implementers, and Flash animators.
Oh,
All sorts of
Okay.
things.
Of course, they haven't updated the copyright information on this website since 2022. So I
Fallout,
So
Fallout
wonder if
Miami.
it's still live and active community. But
and I could see there being like some very minimal progress still being made, but for the most part, like the fact that was the kind of the last thing they can see, maybe they weren't getting the help they needed. So it may still be in the works, maybe not completely dead in the water, but I don't know. We'll see if that ever does eventually come out.
yes, we will. Oh, apparently they have a PC. Oh, okay. This is for the trailers. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I guess since we're on the topic of like, things Microsoft owns, which I don't think we're going to spend that much time on this next topic because, frankly, there's not a whole lot of info out. Just one part is definitely very baffling. So, Microsoft made an announcement the other day that they're going to be closing down some studios, which I believe there were several here. We had Arcane Austin, the folks behind Redfall, which that was a little understandable. Redfall was frankly a disaster. There are a couple other ones, Roundhouse, Alpha Dog, but the one that really baffles me is Tango Gameworks, which, if you don't know who those people are, they are the folks behind the Evil Within horror game series, as well as 2023's breakout success, Hi-Fi Rush. And that's what baffles me, because from everything we've seen, they're very successful. They put out fantastic games, even by Microsoft's own, what we've seen of them from social media, the following the Hi-Fi Rush's success. They've talked about what a resounding and unexpected success this game was, how great it's done. So it's like, if it's done so well, why has the studio been closed down? I'm really baffled right now because I'm trying to think of why, but I can't see a reason why. Because Arcane Austin, I get it. Redfall, it didn't do well. That makes sense. But these guys, seems like they're just knocking it out of the park and produced one of the best games of 2023. So I'm trying to think of why they would shut that down.
Who knows what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, maybe in the coming weeks we'll get some more news. That's part of why I said we may not spend very much time on this. I just, when I learned about it, I was like, what? Why? It's so confusing to me. As here's the thing. Hi-Fi Rush was successful despite the fact that it was shadow dropped. There was no advertising for that game.
Surprisingly enough, yeah.
Bethesda, the parent company, of course, were acquired by Microsoft. I don't know why they didn't advertise at all. Maybe they didn't believe it was gonna succeed because it's so different from what Tango Gameworks has traditionally done. But despite the fact that zero advertising went into it, it became a smash success. And here's the one thing: the fact that there's no advertising means that a lot less money was spent on the project as a whole. Because a lot of times, half a game's budget can be advertising. So there's a lot of budget cut down for that. It's I don't know. From what I can tell, I can't find any information that would suggest that it wasn't a financial success. And we all know critically it was a critical success. I mean, it won several awards, had a strong showing at the Game Awards, stronger than Starfield, which is kind of funny considering they're both Bethesda games.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to in the coming weeks because I'm really interested in learning why this studio in particular was shut down here. Because it's also I believe it's also a Japanese-based studio, which
is ironic considering they're trying to get into the market.
Yeah, Microsoft's been trying to get into the Japanese market, and Tango Gameworks was their only first-party Japanese studio. So it's another reason that makes it very strange why they'd shut that down. I don't know. It's all very weird to me, and I'm hoping we get an explanation.
Maybe they're just rebranding it. I mean, they may be shutting it down from the sense of that brand name, Tango, but they may be just rebranding the studio and or absorbing it and making it into a Microsoft studio.
Could be. Yeah, they're breaking the team apart and moving some folks to other teams.
Right, and that's brands are just exactly that, because a brand is its own entity. So a company can own several brands. It doesn't mean that they necessarily have anything with those brands. I mean, it generally just means they sell product under that brand name.
Yeah.
So it's not an independent company. It's still owned by the parent company. It's still part of the parent company. And a lot of times what they'll do is over time they'll consolidate the brands because it just gets to be too much. Sometimes it waters down your offering instead of increasing it, because especially if a brand has a particular feel to it or develops a certain way that people look at it in the marketplace. And a lot of times companies will buy other companies just specifically to get that brand. I mean, like if you look at the valuations, like Coca-Cola, okay? Coca-Cola as an overall company is, for the most part, that company, it's, if you look at it as just Coca-Cola Corporation, it's actually fairly small. It's just they own their brand, and what they do is they lease the use of their brand. So bottlers in, basically you may have a bottling company, but you're not necessarily Coca-Cola. You're whatever, Bob's Coca-Cola bottling. So you pay Coca-Cola to be able to bottle and sell Coca-Cola products. Same thing with this. It just may be a situation where they bought Tango just so they could get into the Japanese market all along, thinking, okay, we're going to move Microsoft into the Japanese market. It's not going to continue to be Tango. So
maybe, I mean, that's certainly possible, but at the same time, it feels like right now, especially, Tango is a brand still worth having.
It depends on what you want to do with it, Matt. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is, I mean, does Microsoft want to build the Tango brand, or they want to build Microsoft? It would be like us going and buying somebody else's channel. I mean, what is the point behind buying somebody else's channel? So that you can expand your own reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why would we want to continue to run that channel under that name? If what we want to do is to gain access and expand our reach and build our own audience, and the way we thought to do that was to buy that channel. I mean, we don't want to keep running both channels in tandem with each other, because that's not achieving the goal that we want to achieve. So what you want to do is try and migrate that business over to your channel in that sense. And that's okay. So Tango is a really good studio. They're doing a lot of really great work. from a Microsoft standpoint, you got to look at, well, what is the purpose? What did we buy this studio for? Did we buy this studio so that we can make Tango into this great brand and let it keep growing to become, it's Tango Studios. It was Tango Studios when it began in Japan. It's, at that point, it's still a Japanese company. So somewhere along the line, I could see that being the decision-making process. Is okay, everything's going really good. People really like the product that's coming out of this studio, but the purpose is to get us into Japan, into that market. So let's rebrand this studio as Microsoft and drop the Tango name.
I guess whether or not that happens, because it's certainly possible, but I guess the thing I don't know is, at least maybe I haven't done enough research, or maybe that info just hasn't come out, is whether or not the folks at Tango have essentially been absorbed into Microsoft and are still working with that company, or if they've just been fully dissolved and they're out of jobs. Because if the latter is if the former is the case, what you said would definitely kind of hold true, because it'll be the Microsoft brand, but they'll still be doing the same work and putting out more games under the Microsoft brand. But
Right.
if the latter is true, then that's just the I don't know why bit.
Well,
And I guess
one thing.
Go ahead.
Well, one thing to bear in mind there is that, that absorption may not go off with everybody keeping their job, because if you're going to move all that, and they may have been doing this slowly over time anyway. They may have been shifting the marketing for Tango over to Microsoft, and the marketing people for Microsoft were taking care of that. The finance, the accounting folks, that all may have already been shifted over to Microsoft. If it has not, then you get into this situation where you don't necessarily, there's redundancy when you have two companies, because two companies that operate independently, they both companies have to have all these things. So when you merge those companies together, you suddenly don't need two finance departments and two HR departments and two, you need one. So are you just going to absorb all those people? Well, do you really need, if you only need 5 people to run your accounting department, do you, because you absorb this other company, do you suddenly need 10? No. So you may see some people might lose their jobs through it. Absolutely.
We shall see, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be more news coming out in the coming weeks, likely. It's just a very strange decision that, again, right now all we're doing is speculating, and we could be right or we could be completely wrong. Maybe, I don't know.
We don't know. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. It's just really weird to see a studio that put out huge bangers, doing very well, get shut down like that.
It's also the
It
stadium
just really comes out of left field.
Very volatile right now.
Yeah. So we'll see how that develops. Where these folks have gone, or what's going on overall.
Yep.
Because some of those closures definitely made sense. Arcane Austin for Redfall, that makes it's easy to understand why that was shut down. This one is so clear cut, I guess.
Right. I think that's the end of our topics for tonight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about everything we got.
One little thing before we start doing the housekeeping. There are a couple of games that are coming out this month. One of a very anticipated game just launched today called V Rising. If you're into vampires and horror and survival games, think Conan Exiles or Don't Starve. Don't Starve, I think that's the name of the game. And such games. Check it out. It's on Steam right now. think they actually have it as a sale too, like 10% off. There's a couple other games coming out this month. Ghost of Tsushima for PC, I believe, is coming out this month. The Rogue Prince of Persia, new Prince of Persia game. So for those of you who are a fan of that, that's coming out May 13th. No, not May 13th. Sometime in May. Let's see. Ghost of Tsushima is coming out May 16th. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is coming out May 22nd for the Switch.
Ooh, I'm so excited for that, honestly.
Keep that in mind. A couple games have already come out. Foundry, Abiotic Factor, and Indica came out this second of this month. So, there's a couple of games that are coming out that are people are looking for, like Little Kitty Big City, which is, I believe, something in the vein of Stray, that cat game that came out sometime last year that people were hooting and hollering about. Never played it, but it looked pretty good.
I see Homeworld 3 is coming out the day before Mother's Day.
Yep. Oh. Ironic.
Yeah.
Let's see, Song of Conquest. That's coming out May 20th. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. That's coming out May 21st. So a lot of good games to kind of look forward to.
Star Trek Resurgence.
Yeah, it's coming out for Steam and the PS.
PlayStation.
Okay, PlayStation 5. May 23rd. And then Until Then is also coming out on May 23rd. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a couple games are coming out that I'm definitely looking forward to. V Rising is kind of the top of my list because I've played that since early access. Very, very good game. They did a lot of quality improvements.
All these games and not enough time.
Not enough time in a day. But that said, a little bit of housekeeping. Tomorrow we will be having a little change of pace. I will be running my Gary Con one-shot series of unfortunate events in Vizima tomorrow. Greg, Matt are going to be there. We're going to have a couple other folks show up.
What?
We're going to run that.
We're going to be there?
Yeah, you guys get to play. Well, you, Greg, get to play. You don't have to run nothing.
I don't know, Matt. Did we agree to this? We're going to be there?
I mean, if you don't want to show, you don't got to show up.
I'll prepare like a cardboard cutout of myself to kind of just stand there, but you're the DM. I'll just let you kind of tell the story.
Okay, but shit. It'd be a quick game. 5 minutes, everybody dies.
Oh man, no, it'll be fun. The Witcher is really it is a great game.
It is very, very fucking brutal though, but very good.
Crunchy as hell, but if you're into crunch, then that's good.
What else we got? Well, we don't. So next week we have next week's update log. What?
Yes.
Do we have on next week's update log for Wednesday?
For Wednesday, let me check my schedule.
We have a. I know we have a guest coming up here. 2 guests actually, very very soon. So.
We are still finalizing the details for the lead artist and writer of Dragon's Bane.
And we have some others that we're looking at.
And we do have some others we're looking at for Free League Press. And then we have another special guest episode of the update log. Is that set up, Greg? I don't want to give spoil. I don't want to give.
Nope.
But that's still in the work. There's something that's still in the work. It's a big deal where we're trying to make sure that everything is set before we reveal. But keep it in.
I was hoping you would get the hint. I was trying to lead you away from that, and
okay.
You kept wanting to just go right back there.
I thought you were trying to lead me to it. You need to be a little bit more on the nose with your hints there, bud. But yeah, we are finalizing some dates on a couple of guest speakers and guest interviewees and folks like that. Next coming episodes. Next week's episode is still in the works, but expect more industry news, kind of seeing what happens. Potentially, maybe circling back to Sony and Helldivers 2 and seeing kind of what the fallout is from that. But next Thursday, I believe, Greg, if you want to take that.
Yeah,
It's 16th.
it's what?
It's the 16th.
Yep, and the 16th should be the part 2 or book 2 of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, the Wheel of Time. Yep.
The Hunt for the Horn. We're gonna go through. If you go back, take a look at we're covering all the books of the Wheel of Time series. So we did book 1 2 weeks ago now.
Yep.
So every 3 weeks we'll do a book. And come and join us. It's a lot of fun. And the thing is we're like, shiny things,
Squirrels.
So yeah, it's not like we focus on just the book. We try, but it's hard. We're going to try hard next time, which means we might last like 5 minutes staying specific to the content of that book. It's good. And the book 2, The Hunt for the Horn, a lot of really cool stuff happen in that book. And I'm excited to talk about it because there's some character reveal stuff. There's, you get to find the Horn of Valor. They actually go into the Blight, and then they meet the Sietchin, which is awesome when they blow the Horn of Valor and all the heroes of old come back. Anyway, not going to go into that right now. We'll save that for that Thursday. So,
yeah.
And after that, we are going to be starting some new games. So, really looking at our lineup for Free League games. We have a lot of games that we need to get some one-shots out there on. Probably going to be picking something that we are going to run a campaign in. So hey, if you have some thoughts, some feedback, something you would like to see, please do join our Discord and let us know, because we would love to take a look at creating a campaign style series. But we want to do it something that you actually want to see. So share that information with us.
Indeed.
That's it. There's my shameless plug too.
I think that's it for us.
All right. See, I gotta go earlier so I can actually set up something in the background, because otherwise we get into this uncomfortable space where, it's like, oh yeah, now we need to do a raid somewhere. Yes. Tell you what, I think we are going to raid into. You know what? I think we're gonna raid into Brett Ultimus tonight.
Okay.
We'll check him out. Please do stick around. Show this guy some love. Shadow Dust. You want to see you on the show? Hey, wait and raid Insomnia. When is he starting up yet? I would love to raid into Insomnia, but unfortunately, I don't think he starts for another 45 minutes or so. So
he starts at 8. I don't think we can wait that long.
Yeah.
So we'll run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, everybody will leave well before then, as we're just sitting here staring at each other awkwardly. And hey, Shadow Dust.
Take a 25-minute break. See you guys when we get back.
If you are not in our Discord, hop in our Discord, and once you get in there, message Rob, and let him know that you would be interested in essentially trying out for a seat. We're inviting people only from the community, but we're inviting people into our personal game, which we run every Saturday night.
Discord.
Yeah, and you have to be a member of the Discord to apply for that seat. Everybody who applies gets to play with us. And then there's always an opportunity beyond that to become a not like just a guest on the stream, but potentially a cast member for some of the games.
Mm-hmm. But
awesome.
Join that Discord.
Here I am talking away and totally didn't press the raid button, so we are rating in 3 seconds. Thank you, everybody, for being here
That's 20
tonight.
seconds.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Come join us. Watch The Witcher. I am really looking forward to it because I don't get to play a lot, and I really want to just create some
Chaos.
chaos. That would be good. Have a good night, everybody.
Yep. See you guys next.